Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another week here on the live stream here on Moving to Georgia. I'm excited to be back with y'all, and it has been a busy couple of weeks here. I was out of town at a real estate conference. That's why you missed me last week, but I am happy to be here with you today. It's going to be interesting to see how quiet my dogs are going to be during this time. Our weather outside, the days are getting longer, so they are able to see the deer outside in our backyard at this time, and they just go nuts barking. So I guarantee you that's going to happen at least once during this live stream. And for you, those of you that are new here, I am going through a renovation here at my house. So we're living in our basement, which is where I filmed this video. So my family and my dogs are right outside this room, and getting the house quiet during this time is quite the challenge. We'll see how much of an appearance the dogs make tonight during the live stream. So if you are joining us for the first time or again, welcome. I'm Sarah Maslowski, moving to Georgia, serving all of Northeast Metro Atlanta area and helping you make the move and relocate here. Please tell me, where are you watching from? Welcome to the live stream. I love to find out where we have viewers from, where you're tuning in from. It's such a joy and a pleasure to have you here with us. Last week, we had the pleasure of closing our furthest clients that we've ever helped, all the way from Tasmanian, Australia. They made the move here to Georgia, and we were so happy to help Andrew and April find a home out in the suburbs, kind of in the country, and they were so excited to move here to Georgia. So I'm excited to see where you are watching us from. Can anybody beat Australia? That is interesting. Usually we have a couple of people here from different countries, and that's always so exciting. Yes, there we go. Someone from Brazil. Thank you for watching us, Adler. That is super exciting. And so I appreciate you spending the time. As always, I am answering your questions here about moving to Georgia, what's going on in the real estate market. So if you have any questions, go ahead and drop those into the comments. I will pull those up and answer them as we get through kind of the topics here today. And so it has been a bumpy ride in the real estate market since the past 2 weeks that we have been together. And mainly, and I'm sure you've seen this too, when you've pulled open your phone, looked at the headlines, watched the news, you can't help but to see all kinds of headlines about what's going on in the real estate market and mortgage rates. It is a roller coaster of emotions and rates right now. They're up, they're down, they're all around, they're sideways. You don't know which way they're going. And trying to make sense of it all right now is a little bit difficult, I'm not going to lie. So I can definitely understand how you must be feeling as a buyer right now, thinking about making a move or going through this process and trying to nail down what your monthly payment's going to be. I have clients that just went under contract on homes this week, and the mortgage rates this week have been higher than when we just started talking a couple of weeks ago. So, having that conversation with the lender and looking at what the mortgage payments are based on the interest rates today, they definitely kind of went in the wrong direction of how we typically want them to go. We have Manupriya, I hope I'm saying that correctly, from Sandy Springs. Thank you so much for joining us and watching tonight. So I am going to share with you a slide that kind of shows you a little bit about what interest rates are doing right now. So I'm gonna have to zoom in physically to see the interest rates, but the week ending 2/23, mortgage rates were up to 6.5%. And we were down into the low sixes. We actually saw high fives just a couple of weeks ago. And so that can make a significant impact in your monthly payment of what you're paying for your mortgage payment every single month when you have an increase in those mortgage payments or in the interest rate. And this is the same level of interest rate as what we saw kind of going all the way back to mid-November. Not quite as high as the 7% of what we saw back in October, but definitely you can see there on that graph that the interest rates have been going up. And the reason they've been going up is that We had they went down right in January because we had some really good news coming out about the inflation numbers. And the reports were that the inflation was coming down. And all the reports they looked at gave those indicators that what the Fed was doing was moving in the right direction. And so the mortgage world kind of responded as well. And then recently, 2 weeks ago, we got another set of reports in February that said, hey, it worked in January, but we're going in the opposite trend. We have really strong jobs market, and inflation is not, or the tools that they're using to battling inflation is not quite working as well as what they have been for the past couple of months. And there's some mixed economic news out there in terms of the economy, and inflation actually rose comparatively month over month compared to January. And that is why we saw the mortgage rates respond at a higher interest rate. There is another big report that is coming out tomorrow, and that'll be interesting to see how that's going to impact the interest rates as well. So let's take a look at what an economist is saying. They are stating that the mortgage rates increased across the board last week, pushed higher by higher market expectations that inflation will persist, thus requiring the Federal Reserve to keep monetary policy restrictive for a longer time period. So, still kind of going up and down and mixed news there. There is an article that I want to share with y'all that kind of dives in this a little bit deeper. All right, so this is an article put out by CNBC saying mortgage demand from home buyers drops to a 28-year low. And it's highlighting here that it fell for the third straight week as interest rates increased. The mortgage applications dropped 6% last week from the previous week, and the mortgage rates have moved 0.5 percentage point higher in the past month. This is having a direct impact on buyers, and we're seeing this in the real estate market right now. It goes on to say that those mortgage applications to purchase a home dropped 6% last week compared with the previous week. The volume of applications was 44% lower than the same week 1 year ago. Now, that's not so surprising, right? If we look back at mortgage rates a year ago, they were 4%. So, of course, everyone and their brother and their cousin wanted to take advantage of the real estate market last year and take advantage of those 4% interest rates. And so demand was at an all-time high. So it's kind of an expectation that a year later, when we're getting back into more of a normal real estate market cycle, that the demand is going to be lower than it was the same week last year. So it's saying that for an average interest rate for a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, a conforming loan, that just means that you are getting a traditional loan, you're putting down around 20%, increased to 6.71 from 6.62 of what it was just the week prior. So here again, it's saying that the interest rates last February were in the 4% range. So what caused this to go up? It was, like I mentioned earlier, the data on inflation, employment, and the economic activity. It signaled that inflation may not be cooling as quickly as anticipated, and that's not the direction that the Fed wants it to go. Surprisingly, we had strong employment numbers, which you'd think would be a good thing, and yet that's not the right move to tackle and get a hold of in the inflation that is happening. It goes on to say that refinance applications account for less than a third of all applications. Well, duh. Who is refinancing their house right now? If you locked in a 2, 3, or 4% interest rate over the past couple of years, you are definitely not refinancing into this higher rate. So that's kind of like a given, right? We know and anticipate that refinance applications are going to be down comparatively. So how does this impact you as a buyer right now? Well, like I mentioned to the clients that I've recently helped over the past couple of weeks, if they got pre-approved 6 weeks ago, they likely got pre-approved with a rate down in the low sixes. And so now we found a house, you go under contract, you cannot lock in an interest rate until you actually go under contract on a home. We have to have that contract to submit to the lender in order to lock in an interest rate. So it's really important to know that whatever interest rate they quote you on the day that you get pre-approved, that is that day's rates. And it's a bumpy ride. So what you'll see and what the buyers that I'm working with right now are finding is that the home every single month is going to cost them a little bit more than what it would have been a couple of weeks ago had we been able to go under contract on a home a couple of weeks ago. So that is definitely something to keep in mind. If you are in the position to buy a house right now and you're out there shopping, really got to pay attention to those mortgage rates. I'm going to connect you with a fantastic lender that is going to keep you up to date daily on what is happening in the mortgage world so that you have a clear understanding and direction of how these mortgage rates are going to impact your monthly payment. Because if you are working with a very specific type budget, an increase of $50 to $100 a month in your mortgage payment can be a significant impact for you and your family. And we need to know how the mortgage rates are going to affect that. And so this kind of brings up a good point or a question that I get from a lot of buyers, and that is, should I wait to buy a home? There's this volatility with interest rates right now. Maybe the best thing to do is just wait a little bit longer. Let's put it off a couple of months and let's see and let these interest rates settle down. Well, I'm going to give you some other news to kind of factor into this complicated situation. And that is that there's still a big buyer demand for houses here in the metro Atlanta area. And I've experienced this directly with clients that have been shopping over the past couple of weeks, in that I have had 2 clients be in multiple offer situations for a good house in a good area, priced in the 600s. This house has gone into multiple offer situations. And you may be thinking like, wait, I thought multiple offer situations were a thing in 2021 and 2022. I see all the headlines of mortgage rates are higher, buyer demand is down. Why are there multiple offer situations? Well, it's simply because inventory of homes is at an all-time low. We have less homes on the market available for sale than we have in the past couple of years. And so that is creating a lot of buyer demand for only a few of the houses that are out there. So right now in today's market in the metro Atlanta area, if you had to not put on any more houses on the market, it would take a total of 2 months with the current buyer demand to sell all of those houses. So we call that a 2-month supply of inventory. And anything less than 6 months is considered a seller's market. So a balanced market would be when we have 6 months supply of inventory. That means that there's enough demand, enough supply, and it's kind of a balanced market. It's a win-win. No one really has the advantage. Well, right now, sellers still have the advantage at only having a 2-month supply. So in the example of my buyers that recently just faced a multiple offer situation, it's because this seller had a good house in a prime area. It was in good condition. It showed really well. And there were a lot of people that wanted to buy this house. So in the one instance, we had 10 plus offers that we were competing with. And in this most recent example this past weekend, there were 6 offers that we were competing against. Now, the good news is that we're not seeing the crazy over asking situations like we saw in 2021 and 2022. We're not seeing like crazy waiving of appraisal gaps. It's not that crazy, but it is, you're still in a multiple offer situation likely going to be paying over asking price and finagling the contract a little bit to make it more appealing to the sellers. And so you should also know that this is not a situation where every buyer is going to be in a multiple offer situation. It's very, very specific to the area that you're looking in, the type of house that you're pursuing, the price point. There's a lot of factors that go into this. So long-winded, where am I going with this? Is it a good time? Should you wait to buy? Well, that answer is because demand is so high, because inventory is so low. When these interest rates settle back down again, we are going to see an increase in buyers going back into the market. We're still seeing home prices slowly increase. Okay, nothing crazy like we've seen over the past 2 years where we were seeing 20% year over year appreciation. In fact, I'm going to show you an article that talks about how the Atlanta market overall is essentially flat compared to last year. We haven't really seen that much appreciation, but it is slowly appreciating. So this house that you're thinking about putting off buying, if you wait until the end of summer or fall to buy this home, interest rates settle back down, let's say we're in the low sixes, high fives, you're likely going to be in a situation where you're competing with a lot of buyers that are going to come out of the woodworks wanting to buy a house. And this house that you maybe would have had an opportunity on, let's just say now, is likely going to be about $10,000 more, maybe later on in the year, based upon the appreciation and the demand. So then you kind of have to weigh like the cost benefit analysis. Does it make sense to maybe pay a little bit higher interest rate right now and go ahead and get the house where you don't have to compete in a lot of situations? Maybe we can negotiate some seller paid closing costs and some concessions to make it a little bit easier for you, because even though there's less inventory, buyers still have a little bit of leverage right now in the market. So it's not every house that's multiple offer situations. There's still some houses that have been sitting out there that sellers need to sell. Or do you wait until you feel a little bit more comfortable with the interest rates and maybe pay a little bit more for the house? And then sometimes doing the math on that, you realize that you might be paying a little bit more in your mortgage payment by waiting, even though the interest rate is better depending upon how the house is priced. Now, all that being said, it is definitely something that you have to make a decision that is right for you and your family, and what is the best scenario for you and your family. So if you're just joining us, thank you. I'm excited to be back here with you, answering all of your questions about the Georgia real estate market, the housing market, any questions that you may have about making a move, selling a house, buying a house. I'm here to answer your questions. So please drop those in the comments, and I'm going to pull those up, and we're going to go through those questions and make sure that we get those answered for you tonight. We have a good question here from Anthony. Based on your experience, have you ever seen so much volatility in rates before? It's almost as if the rates are directly driven by market speculation, which moves constantly due to the Fed. And so we're kind of in this weird scenario right now, right? So there is a lot of volatility in the market due to inflation. We just came out of a situation where we had unprecedented market situation with the pandemic and interest rates being so incredibly low. If you go back to the beginning of the pandemic, articles at that point said, housing market crash, the sky's going to fall, and no one's going to sell their house, no one's going to move. It's a pandemic situation. And then everyone realized, like, hey, wait, I can go move anywhere. It's crazy cheap right now to get a loan. Might as well, live in a house that I really want to be in. And then we kind of had this crazy time period. And so, the market kind of swings in both directions, right? So it's kind of expected that after a crazy time period in the real estate market, there's a cooling off period, and it's going to swing back the other way. What's important to know is that a lot of people kind of like to compare this time to last time in 2007, 2008, thinking that the prices of houses are like drastically going to drop and decrease. And that is not happening. Not here in the metro Atlanta area. And there's no economist that, if you really dig into it, you can't find anyone saying that home prices are going to depreciate. You might see that home prices have fallen, or that the average home price has fallen. And you'll see that here in the metro Atlanta area. But you got to keep in mind, we're comparing this to last year and the year before, when a seller was putting their house on the market, let's say for $500,000, which was the fair market value. And then buyers were coming along competing for that house, and they were willing to pay $550,000 for that house. And so really the fair market value was $500,000, but then that price got driven up to $550,000. So if you see that, let's just use that 500 number. If you see that home prices now have fallen back more in line with that 500, well, has the market really changed? Has the home prices really changed a whole lot? Not really. It's just that the market conditions were such over the past 2 years that a seller could get that for their house because of those market conditions. It wasn't that the house was really worth that. Now, those buyers that bought that $550,000 house, I don't know that they care right now that if they had to turn around and sell their house, that they could only sell it for, they're not going to sell it for less, right? They're saying, hey, I have an amazing interest rate on this house. I'm going to stay here. There's no need for me to sell. Even if I wanted a bigger house it's not worth the additional cost or the expense of what that new interest rate is going to be and the opportunity cost of what I'm giving up with that really, really low interest rate. And that's kind of the reason why we have such low inventory right now. We have a lot of people, a lot of sellers that typically would sell and move across town because they want a bigger house or they want a bigger backyard or they want to be a little bit closer to work, but they're sitting on these interest rates that are 3, 4, and 5%. They're not going to sell. They're looking at what the interest rates are right now and they're saying, no way, Jose, this is really good. It's going to cost me a lot more to get that same price house at a different interest rate. So definitely something to keep in mind. And that was a lot of information for you there. Mario, or Maro, hopefully, from Woodstock, Georgia, bought my house 1 year ago, right before the rate started to climb. Thanks for being a fan. And thank you for recommending that. We would love to help anyone that you would like to recommend. I would love to be your personal real estate agent. So I make these videos so that I hopefully can have an opportunity to earn your business and be the one having boots on the ground, guiding you through this process. So thank you so much for being a fan and watching. I definitely appreciate it. We have the lovely Camille watching us from Salt Lake City. We are helping Camille and her family buy a home right now, and we're so excited, and I can't wait for your new construction home to be finished and get y'all out here. You're going to be a wonderful addition to Georgia, and can't wait to see you here all the time. Leonardo, thoughts on buying in Auburn? Oh, yes. Okay. Auburn is a good area. So just outside of Tequila, in Gwinnett County, kind of on the outskirts of Gwinnett County. And this is one of the areas where Auburn has experienced a lot of growth because of the urban sprawl, or the suburban sprawl, I should say, right? Tequila has gotten bigger. Auburn kind of sits right outside of it, but you're still close to the Brazelton and the Houston areas, which are also really popular. I just did a video on the top 5 most affordable towns in Northeast Georgia, and Auburn made that list. And of course, being affordable is relative, right? But right now, it is one of the more affordable areas where you see a lot of new construction growth happening there, and the town itself is going through some really cool development and some new things that are coming in the area that's going to make Auburn even more special than what it already is. So I definitely think that Auburn should be something on your list if you're looking for more affordable new construction, especially. You're going to find a lot of good options there. Reach out to me. I'd love to connect you with some really great resources and help you through that process. Adler asks, are you seeing stricter criteria of mortgage approvals now? That is a good question. And so one of the things you should know of why the housing market is not like how it is back in 2007, 2008, and that is because overall, since the housing crash in 2007-8, lending standards have gotten much more strict, just because as a result of the market crash in 2007, 2008. So as a result of that, the lenders have had like really good standards in place over the last 10, 15 years, and it's been pretty tight and steady. And so we are seeing some unique programs come on the market to help buyers right now that maybe weren't on the market the past couple of years, to kind of help combat some of these challenges with the higher interest rates. Although the lending standards are pretty tight. So they haven't added like any increase in restrictions to qualify for a mortgage loan, but it's definitely stricter than what it was 15 years ago. And as such, we're seeing record low foreclosures and short sales. That's just simply not happening. It's also not happening because these sellers or would-be sellers, if they were in that situation, they have an incredible amount of equity in their home. So you're not seeing that either. So that is something that you should know about that process. One important thing to note, and I should pull up an article on this, the government just released news that for FHA loans, so FHA stands for the Federal Housing Authority backed loans. And so FHA loans are very popular with first-time home buyers, 3.5% down. That's all that's required. You can have a higher debt to income ratio. So for a lot of to qualify for a conventional loan, there's a certain limit of where they want your monthly debt obligations to be in relation to how much money you make every single month. An FHA-backed loan, you can have a little bit more debt on the books and in relative comparison to how much you make. But an important part of the FHA loan is something called the mortgage insurance premium, the private mortgage insurance. It's called PMI on an FHA loan. And that PMI is a set fee that you have to pay every single month. It's a percentage of the loan that you pay every single month. And that's what it is. It's an insurance premium. It's an insurance premium that you're paying to the lender. And that insurance premium covers them so that if you default on the loan and go into foreclosure, they're going to be able to recoup some of their money that they've loaned on this house. So what they announced, though, is that PMI fee is going to be going down. So it's a set standard rate, 0.85, and it's going down to 0.7-ish. I need to get the exact numbers on that. But what it means for you as a buyer is that on a typical price home here in the metro Atlanta area, looking at spending at least $350,000, this is going to save you good $70, $80 a month on your actual mortgage payment. That's real dollars that you're putting back into your pocket. And so it's going to have a significant impact on buyers right now if you're looking for an FHA loan. So that's good news in the mortgage world. Leonardo asked, what are your thoughts on a new construction incentives? I feel like the incentives aren't really incentives because they'll just change or charge a ton of lender fees and stupid charges. I'm so glad you brought this up. Sometimes this does happen. Not going to lie. And so it's always why I recommend that my buyers always get a pre-approval from one of my trusted lenders first. And if we go home shopping or if we know that we're going to be interested in new construction, I'll always have the conversation with you of, hey, look, these new construction builders, they have a relationship with the mortgage company that they like to use. Sometimes that mortgage company is owned by the builder. So D.R. Horton, they have their own mortgage company. A lot of these big national builders, Toll Brothers, they have their own mortgage company. And they're going to say, hey, if you use our preferred mortgage company, we're going to give you an extra incentive whenever you buy this house. Typically, it is additional money towards closing costs or options or a rate buy down. A really popular thing that we're seeing right now is them saying like, hey, here's $10,000. Use it any way you want. We don't care if you use it for a rate buy down. We don't care if you use it to upgrade your flooring or your closing costs. You tell us how you want to use it. So, but they're going to stipulate that if you want that money, though, you're going to have to use our preferred lender, or a good portion of that money is usually tied to the lender. So here's where getting pre-approved with an outside lender ahead of time comes in handy. I'm always going to recommend that you also go through that pre-approval process with their preferred lender to see what that actual loan estimate looks like. Then we're going to take that loan estimate from their preferred lender, and we're going to take that back to the lender that I've connected you with. And the reason I've connected you with these lenders is because they are fantastic, high integrity people. And they're going to look at these loan estimates. They're going to see what they would charge you, and they're going to see what that preferred lender is, what the builder is charging you, and they're going to compare apples to apples. And they're going to walk through line item by line item with you to see if there are any hidden charges in that preferred lender's loan estimate. And I've had many scenarios, y'all, where we've done that exact same thing. And my preferred lender has said, hey, this is a really good deal with the builder's lender. And yeah, they're not really price gouging anywhere. This is good. Your buyer should take it. They're going to save money using the builder's lender. That is someone that you want to be in business with, right? They're not looking out for themselves. They're looking out for you and what's in your best interest. And yes, occasionally, Leonardo, sometimes we see they're charging a higher rate, but then they're showing a rate buy down, using that money to buy down the rate when really it's not a buy down. So each scenario is really different. Sometimes it works out using the builder's lender. Sometimes it doesn't. But that's why I always suggest using a preferred lender that your agent, like me, has already connected you with to kind of get that initial rate quote. And then get that rate quote from the builder's lender so that you have something to compare it to. Fantastic question. And that is definitely best practice and something that you want to do. Oh, we have another person watching from Brazil. I need to make more Brazil content. I would love to hear from the two people that are on the live stream watching from Brazil. Share with me a little bit more about what is appealing about moving to Georgia, or if that's something that you're considering, because this is very interesting and fascinating to me. Hari asks, looking to buy a new construction house right behind North Georgia Premium Outlet, Dawsonville. Please share your thoughts about the area. Hari, I would love to help you with that process. One thing you should know about new construction, the agents that work for new construction communities, they represent the builder. They can 100% help you get under contract. They will treat you like you are their client and help you with that process. But at the end of the day, that agent represents the builder. And so it does not cost you anything additional, nor do you save any money by not having your own agent. They're not going to discount that house just because you don't have another agent on your side. So you always want someone representing you and negotiating on your behalf. 9 times out of 10, things go smoothly and it's good. But there's always that 10 or 15% that happen where something goes wrong in that new construction build process, or the builders try to pull one over on buyers. And I'm like, no, this is where like I shine. I'm stepping in and I'm arguing on your behalf. And I'm saying, no, this isn't right. You're not going to do this to my buyer, or you're not going to tell us to settle for something that is not up to standard. So, okay, off my soapbox on that. So I would love to help you with that. My contact information is below this video. Reach out to me and I'd love to help negotiate on your behalf. But the Dawsonville area is growing incredibly. It's becoming a very, very popular destination. And the reason that it's growing so much is because of the popularity of Cumming. And Cumming has gotten very popular because of the popularity of Alpharetta. And so if you look at them on a map, you have Alpharetta, and then you have Cumming just up 400, and then you keep driving up 400, and that's where you reach Dawsonville. And so Dawsonville has those amazing premium outlets over there, and there's also a ton of new restaurants that are there, new stores, Publix. You got PetSmart and all of these retail stores that are going there. Why are they going there? They're going there because they see the economic development that is happening in the region and all of the families that are moving there that have disposable incomes and money to spend. So that is definitely something that you want to look for in an area. If you're thinking about moving some places, are other businesses relocating there, and is there infrastructure going up in the town? Do you see other businesses choosing to build locations there? And so you've definitely seen that in the Dawsonville area over the last 5 years. Dawsonville looks drastically different than when we first moved here 8 years ago. And so I definitely think it's a good area. It's some place that you can get more house for your money right now than comparatively to Cumming area. Definitely Alpharetta, you're going to get way more for Dawsonville. Another good thing about Dawsonville is that the schools have recently improved quite a bit as well from how it was 10 plus years ago. So that's another area, or another reason that people are attracted to the area, is because of a little bit more affordable compared to Cumming, a lot of good new construction opportunities in Dawsonville, and the schools are a little bit better. Plus you have all of that exciting retail development happening in the Dawsonville area. So I definitely think it is a fantastic place to check out. And I'm glad that that's on your list. So let me know if I can help you. I would love to. Anthony, how much do you think, if any, the increase in rates will impact the normal spring season in the market? Will things slow down, or will low inventory keep things busy? Fantastic question. Couldn't have written that one better myself. I do think that the low inventory is going to keep things busy. If we had a lot of houses on the market right now, then I definitely think that we would feel the rate increase quite a bit more than what we are seeing. The bad thing about the low inventory is that not only are we being affected by kind of like seasonality right now, we're just getting into the start of the spring selling season. And so we're starting to see more houses come on the market, and it's still not enough. And so we have people that are moving here because they have to move here for jobs or deaths, births, that sort of thing. So there's always that natural reasons why people have to buy or sell. And we still have a lot of people that are choosing to move to the metro Atlanta area because it's way more affordable than where they're currently living. So the clients that I told you about that had a multiple offer situation, they're relocating from New York, and they can get a much better house, way more square footage, a 4,000 square foot home on a basement in Cumming Swanee area for $650 when that's just unheard of, where they're currently living. And you get like this great big backyard, fantastic schools, so that's wildly appealing to a lot of people. And so there's still plenty of people relocating to the area that, even though we have higher interest rates, it's still more affordable than where they're currently living and what the current market is like where they are. And so, that's a good and bad thing about the metro Atlanta market, right? We have a lot of people that are moving here and seeking this out. And thus it's, causing the housing market to hold really steady in the Atlanta market. Andres, looking for houses in Alpharetta, Johns Creek area at around $2 million. Are these type houses difficult to negotiate pricing compared to houses, for example, at 500? That is a good question, and it's a little bit of a unique scenario. So, and then I'll explain a little bit why. There is a strong demand for houses in Alpharetta and Johns Creek. Typically right now, the luxury housing market is moving a lot slower than houses in the $500,000 price point. In Cumming and Swanee, for really good houses priced in the $500,000 to $700,000 range, those are the houses that we're seeing multiple offers on right now because there's hardly anything on the market, and finding one that's in good kind of moving condition is really hard. So those good houses are moving quickly, and we're seeing multiple offer situations. Across the country, luxury houses, 1 million and up, those are moving a lot slower than what they were, and also a lot slower in comparison to houses in that 500 to 700 price point range as well. So the reason that Alpharetta is a little bit of a unique scenario is still because there's a lot of demand for it here locally, and there is a lot of buyers in that price point as well. So you're not going to see multiple offer situations, maybe for like a very rare, unique house that hits the market. You're going to see those houses spend a little bit more time on the market, but you're still going to see them move fairly relatively well for homes that are priced right. And so pricing is still so important. So if we see homes in that price point that have been on the market for more than 30 plus days, maybe 45 days, that's a really good indicator that the seller has overpriced that home. And so for any price point right now, one of the really confusing things, and I have this conversation a lot with clients, is they say, yeah, but I keep seeing all these price decreases. I get these alerts in my inbox of, hey, this home price just fell. And so aren't prices falling? And my answer to that is that it still really matters, the pricing of a home initially. And so sometimes we just have these sellers who are still stuck in 2022 or 2021, and they remember their neighbor's house that they listed for 500 and sold for 550. So they're like, okay, well, now my house is worth 550. Let's sell it for that. And you're like, no, remember, it was really worth 500. It was just the market conditions created a scenario in such that it sold for 550. I'll give you another perfect example. I have some other buyers. We're looking at a townhome right now in a specific community, and we found an off-market townhouse. The agent's about to list it next week. And so I called the agent up and I'm like, hey, this is the perfect townhouse for my buyers. They want to be in this neighborhood. What price are you thinking? And they're like, oh, we're going to list it for $380. And I was like, okay, let me do some research to make sure that that's a fair price. Well, 3 houses down back in November, that exact same floor plan, exact same square footage, sold for $345. And so I call back the agent and I'm like, hey, house down 2 houses down just sold for $345. What is your seller thinking, or how did y'all come up with this number? And the agent's like, oh, I told my seller, I shared with her the comps. I showed her those houses that have recently sold, and they're looking at the market and they're saying, well, there's nothing on the market. We think we can get $380 for it. And I'm like, it's not going to appraise for $380. This other house just sold for $345. That's what an appraiser is going to look at. And she's like, yeah, my seller is just adamant though. And we still submitted an offer, even a little bit higher than 345. I submitted the documentation as to why we submitted the offer at what we submitted. And that seller still said, no, sorry, we're going to go to the market at 380. Now, let's come back in a couple of weeks and I'd love to like give you an update on the story. I guarantee you that townhouse is going to sit on the market and it's going to go through price drops and it's going to get around that 350 range before it finally finds a seller or a buyer to bite at that price. And so those are the types of sellers that we are seeing of homes that are having these price decreases. It's because either the agent had bad advice, or in this situation, just like the seller, the agent was giving them the correct information. The seller was just adamant that they know more or think they know what's going to happen. So that is a unique scenario of what we're seeing here in the Metro Atlanta area for sure when it comes to home prices. But yeah, I would love to help you find your house, Andre. So please make sure you reach out to me. My contact information is below this video. And I help people just like you and from all over the country in the United States relocate right here to the Metro Atlanta area. So we are answering these questions for you about relocating. So if you have them, please make sure that you drop them in the comments. I did come across an interesting article of some good news in the Metro Atlanta area, and I wanted to share this with you. Investors have slowed their purchases in Atlanta. And you might be thinking, like, isn't this a bad thing? If investors are not buying houses in the Metro Atlanta area, what does that mean for me? Well, this is a little bit different, and I'm going to share with you why. So let me pull up this article. Let's see here. Oh, bear with me. Let's get to the article. All right, here we go. This is in the Atlanta Business Chronicle, and it's showing that investor purchases plunged 62% in the Atlanta housing market, Redfin report shows. So what does that mean? It means that investor home purchases in the Metro Atlanta area plummeted 62.8% in the fourth quarter of 2022 compared to that same 3-month span in 2021. This is according to Redfin, and investor purchases only accounted for 24.6% share of the homes that were sold in fourth quarter. That's still quite a lot, y'all. That means that 25% of all houses, 1 in 4 houses that were sold in the Metro Atlanta area, October, November, December of last year were sold to an investor. And that means that you were competing against investor offers on all of those homes. So they looked at those county sale records, and they figured out which ones were sold to those investors. And it actually said that the Atlanta market came in at number 4 for the largest year-over-year drop in investor purchases. But then when you go on to read, it said it ranked second when looking at where investors lost the most market share, trailing just Atlanta. But despite that, Atlanta still had the 3rd largest market share of investor home purchases. So investor home purchases dropped, and yet there's still a strong demand for investor purchases here in the Atlanta area. And you might be thinking, okay, why is the Atlanta area so unique when it comes to this, or why are we highlighting the Atlanta area? One thing that you need to note is that Atlanta is a huge market for iBuyers. And so iBuyers are not in every single market in the metro areas across the United States. So iBuyers are companies like OfferPad, Zillow, Orchard, Knock, all of those housing companies. And what they're essentially doing is that they're going out and they're buying homes directly from sellers, and those houses are never hitting the market. Sometimes they're hitting the market, a lot of times they're not. And it's because it's much more convenient for these sellers to pay or sell to these investment companies And they're getting a cash deal. It's a done, guaranteed cash deal. They don't have to go through the negotiation process with the buyer. They don't have to go through a home inspection process and negotiate repairs. They're just getting this cash deal, and it's relatively easy. Now, during the pandemic, these iBuyers were making very good offer prices for houses, and a lot of times they were making over asking or over value offers. And a lot of times it was really hard to compete, or it was really hard for a seller to say no because it had so much guarantees in that home sale. Now today, it's kind of a little bit back to how it used to be, which is where we're kind of seeing them come in under value. So let's just say that a house is, listed at 400,000. You might see an investor offer come in around 360, 375. But these iBuyers, even though they're these big companies, they're usually backed by these big hedge fund investment companies. And so the reason why I think that this is such a good thing for buyers in the Metro Atlanta market is this is just one less person that you have to compete with in buying a house. Remember, 1 in 4 houses are still being sold to investors. That used to be a much, much higher number. So that is definitely less competition that you have when it comes to buying a house. And when you're competing against these investors, you're competing against a 100% cash buyer. And so for a lot of people buying a home, they're not cash buyers. They're getting a loan. But if you're a seller and you're on the selling side and you're comparing 2 equivalent offers, one is cash and one is a loan, you're going to go with that cash offer. And the reason is because they just show you proof of funds in cash, and 2 weeks later, you can collect a check. You don't have to worry about an appraisal. You don't have to worry about the buyer losing their job. You don't have to worry about a hidden bankruptcy issue popping up. I mean, that cash thing is a very much of a done deal. So that is definitely a good thing of not having to compete as much in the Metro Atlanta area. That means more houses are available. And it's important to note that most all of these houses that they're buying are typically first-time home buyer houses. These are houses that, it's already hard enough right now as it is if you're a first-time home buyer looking for a house under 300,000, that's really difficult right now. If you're looking at a house under 400,000, that can still be kind of difficult right now. And so first-time home buyer, this is that first-time home buyer market. My assistant and I had a good laugh, but also kind of like oh gosh, look how far the real estate market has come. We, Facebook Facebook, whenever you're on there, it'll show you what your posts were from a couple of years ago, like on this day and, 2 years ago. And so we had made a post in 2020 where we were looking for, I made a post of I had several buyers that I was trying to find houses for. And it was like, I'm trying to find a ranch on a basement in Brazelton for, under 300,000. You can't find a ranch not on a basement right now under 300,000 in Brazelton. And so it's just kind of a little bit, shocking how quickly home prices have risen in the Metro Atlanta area over the past couple of years. Just that post a couple of years ago, you cannot find any of what we were looking for anywhere close to those prices in today's prices. Anthony, did I see the news about Opendoor Q4 losses of $40 million given the latest drop in their profit? Have you or other agents you talked to been able to negotiate easier with them? Yes. So negotiations with Opendoor has gotten a little bit easier. I saw an article the other day that stated that on average, they lost $24,000 for every property that they sold in Q4. So this is a great scenario of why they have pulled back a lot of their purchases, is that they just don't know what they're doing, right? Or they just have so much money to burn through that it doesn't really matter. But a lot of these houses that they paid really high prices for in 21 and 2022, they're trying to offload these houses now. The market is not the same as what it was then. And so they're often taking these big losses on these houses because they were just making crazy offers on them to begin with. And usually they go in there and put new paint or carpet in there, and there's realtor commissions on top of that. It's become a little bit easier to negotiate with Opendoor, and I will say that it's still not a good process. So if you come to me and you say, hey, I want to buy a house, do you think we should target Opendoor properties because we're going to get a better deal on those homes? I don't know that I necessarily recommend Opendoor properties because usually they're not in the best condition. Usually they require a lot of repairs, and it's just something to take on a case-by-case basis. But almost all of my clients that I have that actually go and look at Opendoor properties, they come back to me and we quickly come to the realization that they don't want to look at any more Opendoor properties. So definitely good questions. All right. I have so enjoyed getting to spend time with you today, answering your questions about the Metro Atlanta, Georgia housing market. So if you have any more of those questions, go ahead and get those in. Definitely has been a bumpy ride over the past couple of weeks. And, I hope that, and what we're expecting to see over the next couple of months is that it's going to continue to be like an up and down bumpy ride. Eventually, at some point later this year, things are going to calm down, and that scared me. That's my dog. Things are going to calm down, and we are going to kind of return to a normal where there's not quite all of this bumpiness in the real estate market or the mortgage rates. And so that's just something to keep in mind. My advice to you always is that if you have the ability to buy a house now, I still recommend that it's always a better thing to buy now, because I do anticipate that the demand is still going to increase throughout the year, and that we're going to see more of these multiple offer situations as these rates stabilize a little bit more. You likely, we can't say with 100% certainty, but if you listen to all the economists, you study the data, more than likely you're going to be in a very good position next year to refinance into a much better interest rate. And you're going to be thankful that you were able to get the house in 2023 at the price that you were, because all the data is indicating that, home prices in the Metro Atlanta area still continue to increase over the next couple of years. And so the house that you're, could buy next year is likely going to be not a lot more, but definitely more expensive than what it is this year. And the opportunity cost of renting during this time period is likely going to be, in any gains that you may gain from waiting for that lower interest rate, it's going to be wiped away by the opportunity cost that you have right now. And you'll always able to refinance and kind of have this little bit of a higher rate for maybe the next 6 months to a year as you wait for those interest rates to come back down. So as always, if I can help you make a move to the Metro Atlanta area, if you don't know this, I want to be your real estate agent. I want to work with you personally. So reach out to me. My contact information is below. We put out a live video, a live stream most Wednesdays if I'm not out of town at a conference or something like that. But we do have a video that hits every single Sunday here on my channel. So make sure you check it out. There's tons of great content about moving to the area. One last question here. Adler says, due to my wife's job, we are moving from Sao Paulo. I hope I said that correctly. So Georgia, they're going to start seeking the Alpharetta area in June based on school rating. Concerned about availability, as you said, the stock seems very low. Yes, and Alpharetta is a very popular location. So I definitely think that we should start looking sooner rather than later. So I strongly encourage you to go ahead and reach out to me now. Let's get together and kind of put together a strategy session on exactly what's important to you. And we can really make sure that we're uncovering all possible areas and locations for you based on what's important. A lot of people also seek out the Cumming area because of its really close proximity to Alpharetta. And you can get a lot of the same great things that you can get in Alpharetta, like just 10 minutes up the road in Cumming. So Cumming still has excellent schools, great houses, great neighborhoods, great shopping, and you're just a 10-minute car ride away from, all the great things that Alpharetta has to offer, depending upon where you're looking in Cumming. So let's get together and talk about that. You can reach out. I have a cell phone number below. You can text, call, or send us an email at hello@KeyPoint Homes Group, or you can go to my website, keypointhomesgroup.com, and reach out to us there. But however you want to reach out to us, we would definitely love to help you strategize through that and work through that. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining me tonight. I will talk to you personally if you reach out, or I will see you next week on the live stream. Thank you for joining me.